While the Prime Minister tours Asia, rumors swirl at home over the lifespan of his government. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Deeper than the headlines.
The answers you need to know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
The Prime Minister, Mark Carney, is in South Korea. He's there for the APEC summit, the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. U.S. President Donald Trump is there too, where he is expected to have high-level talks with the leadership of China. According to the Canadian media contingent following the Prime Minister around Asia, Trump and Carney sat across the table from one another at dinner today. The two exchanged pleasantries. But on social media, Trump posted, quote, "For those that are asking, we didn't come to South Korea to see Canada." Such is the state of Canada's relations with the United States right now, with trade talks on ice after the Doug Ford government in Ontario aired a TV commercial in the United States that used Ronald Reagan's voice and upset Trump. There are multiple news reports today. The Ford government's commercial has so soured the talks, the U.S. ambassador to Canada lit into Ontario's trade representative in Washington, cursing and swearing at him during a fancy event in Ottawa at the National Gallery of Canada. All to say, things don't seem to be going well. And the political opposition in Ottawa wants to know why. This is Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party.
The signature promise on which the Prime Minister was elected was to, quote unquote, negotiate a win with the Americans, to get a deal by July 21st. And here we are, late October, still no deal, still no win, still no elbows, still no jobs, and American tariffs have. The Prime Minister promised he would get rid of them. Yesterday, his latest excuse was that an Ontario government ad prevented him from keeping his promise. So, yes or no, did the Prime Minister or his staff see the ad before it went out?
Stick handling things in the House of Commons while the Prime Minister is away is his top trade person, Cabinet Minister Dominic LeBlanc.
Our government, Mr. Speaker, was elected to negotiate an agreement with the United States that's in the interests of Canadian workers and the Canadian industries. Unlike the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker, we're not going to sign whatever agreement the Americans might suggest. We're going to sign an agreement that benefits Canadian workers and the Canadian economy. And at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we're going to build in Canada, we're going to invest in Canada, and we're going to support Canadian workers and Canadian business.
While Poilievre says he sees nothing but a string of broken promises and never-ending excuses, LeBlanc says the government is there to help Canadians.
The Prime Minister promised that he'd have a good deal by July 21st. That date has come and gone. And his latest excuse is an ad from the government of Ontario. He claims that's why he couldn't keep his promise and get a deal. So, yes or no? Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said a moment ago, our government is committed to working with all partners in our federation, to work with premiers in every part of the country, to work with union leaders and business leaders, to support the Canadian economy and Canadian workers, and to negotiate with the Americans for a deal that's in the interests of Canada. That's been the government position from the beginning. I'm proud of the work that we've done with all the premiers and businesses and union leaders across the country.
This latest spat with the Americans has knocked the Liberals off message. Usually around this time in the political cycle, a government would be leaking things to news reporters in Ottawa about all the great things that are going to be in the budget. Budget day, after all, is less than a week from now, next Tuesday. But instead, any discussion around the budget has not been about goodies or shiny pennies, but rather about whether the budget will even pass. The leader of the Bloc Québécois, Yves-François Blanchet, says if the Liberals want their budget to pass, they have to find a dance partner. And he doesn't sound like he's hitting the dance floor anytime soon.
It is the exclusive responsibility of the Liberals to find someone with whom reach an agreement in order to have their budget eventually adopted. It means that they will have to perhaps make these or change things in the budget, but how can one say that he will vote in favor or against something no one has seen, which is normal? We have said this is what we want in the budget in order to vote in favor of it. If all of you believe that we will vote against it, it's because all of you believe that what we did ask for Quebecers is not in the budget.
Even Elizabeth May, the Green Party leader, who has traditionally been a steady supporter of the Liberals, is sounding as though she's going to be a no.
So far, every horrible thing that's happened to me as a Green since Mark Carney became Prime Minister has been decisions of the Liberals with the complete support of the Conservatives. So I don't know which way the government will turn for support for the budget because I don't know what's in the budget. And I don't think anyone does. And I have to hope for the best. I really hope for the best.
Would you be prepared to go to an election before the holidays?
I'm not prepared to betray my granddaughter's future by voting for fossil fuel subsidies, no matter the cost in terms of politics. Some things are more important than politics, and my granddaughter's future is top of my list.
Do you have any concerns about hearing the government House leaders say that they're willing to go to an election?
I don't think they have a choice. People should refresh memories. I know it was a long time ago, but the 1979 budget fell, and it famously fell, as they say, because the Conservatives couldn't count.
It's the Liberals, though, who have really been talking up the chances that their budget won't pass. That would trigger another election. And the government messenger on that has been the House Leader, Steve McKinnon.
We have a minority government, but we believe we have a mandate. And when I see opposition parties not ruling out the possibility of voting for the budget, that's starting to worry me, but I think it's them that are misreading the mood of Canadians. If an election is necessary, we would obviously, reluctantly, because we don't think Canadians want an election, but election there will be. It's the opposition parties who have that decision in their hands.
Of note today, Fred Delory, a well-known Conservative commentator and the national campaign manager for the Aaron O'Toole 2021 Conservative Party election campaign, is predicting there will be an election over this budget. He says that's what the Liberals want. He says, quote, "This Parliament is finished." I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
It's Bank of Canada Day. No surprises here. The Bank of Canada lowered its trend-setting overnight rate by 25 basis points. That puts it at 2.25%. What's that mean for mortgage rates these days? Jason.Mortgate is a residential mortgage expert, mortgage broker. Jason.Mortgate. Hello there. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
What's your reaction to the Bank of Canada news today?
Muted. I think it was the markets expected that the Bank of Canada was going to cut 0.25%. I think what was interesting was the Bank of Canada's commentary out that they feel this is the end of their rate cutting cycle. So for people that were hoping that variable rates were going to continue to drop, it looks like the Bank of Canada is done for the near-term future anyways. Of course, that can change based on economic indicators and, with all the uncertainty specifically south of the border and how that's impacting us, that could change. But as of right now, the Bank of Canada anticipates that this is nearing the end of their rate-cutting cycle.
So what's out there for the popular mortgage products? What's the number in front of it? Can I get a mortgage rate with a 3 in front of it, a 4 in front of it, a 5 in front of it? Just what's out there these days?
Yeah, all of the above, Rob.
Okay.
But specifically, when it comes to the variable rate, and this is something that's really important to differentiate. The Bank of Canada's rate at now 2.25% is not the variable rate that you and I would borrow at. That's the rate at which banks lend to each other, the overnight rate. Bank prime, and even this has a little bit of variation to it, was yesterday at about 4.7%. So the prime rate now for banks, where you and I would go to borrow, is right in the neighborhood of about 4.45%. But it's important to know that not all banks, and there's a couple out there specifically, that their prime rate is higher than other bank prime rates. So it's really important to look at that number. Banks will offer, prime minus, let's say, 50 basis points. So if your bank's prime rate was 4.45%, that would give you a variable rate of about 3.95. But there are banks out there whose mortgage prime rates are actually up to 15 basis points higher than everyone else's. So it's good to focus on the actual prime rate that the bank has, which you want to find out, and not just the discount, because obviously if the prime rate is 15 basis points higher, their discount isn't going to be comparable to other banks at that time. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that when the Bank of Canada cuts its overnight lending rates, that impacts variable rate mortgages only. It does not impact fixed rate mortgages. So if you're looking at a fixed rate, today's bank announcement isn't going to have any impact on that. Fixed mortgage rates in Canada are actually priced off of the equivalent term Government of Canada bond. So if you want to know where fixed rates are going at, you have to look at the bond rates. And as a matter of fact, the bond rates were up a little this morning based on the fact that the Bank of Canada has said that this is nearing the end of their rate cutting cycle. That indicates to the bond market that they may feel that inflation is going to have a bigger impact. So they are actually now bidding up the bond yields. So that's going to increase fixed rates a little bit. So very important to make that differentiation. When the Bank of Canada cuts, that impacts variable rates. So variable rate mortgages, lines of credit, home equity lines of credit. It does not impact fixed rate mortgages.
Right. So what are you seeing with your clients? Are more people opting for variable or fixed?
It really depends on the situation. We saw a lot of people going into variable over the last year, although the average, the national trend has been more people have been taking fixed mortgages. I think it really depends on what you're looking at doing. If you want some flexibility, so let's say that, your mortgage is up for renewal or you're doing something, refinancing a property, but you think you might be selling or need to refinance within the next year. Those type of clients are taking a variable rate because you can get out of a variable rate mortgage at any time with only a 3-month interest penalty. The penalty on fixed mortgages can be considerably higher. So for people looking for that flexibility, they're taking a variable rate mortgage. The other part of the segment are clients that think that fixed rates may come down a little bit over the next year. So they're taking a variable mortgage in hopes that the fixed rates drop, and then they can lock in. Most variable mortgages allow you to lock into a fixed rate at any time with no cost or penalty. So typically the people taking the variable are the ones that are looking for that flexibility. As well, a lot of people that have taken variables, if you back the last 3 years out of the numbers, have made out better than those that are taking a fixed. But people that don't want to think about what rates are going to do, that they, thinking about rate changes might keep them up at night, those are the ones that want that financial certainty that tend to take a fixed rate.
Gotcha. Have to wrap it up there. That's our time. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Yep. Residential mortgage expert, mortgage broker, Jason.Mortgate, Jason Humeniuk with us on News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
2 out of 3 takes it all now, and it will all finish in Toronto. There were lots of questions going into Game 4 of the World Series between the Toronto Blue Jays and the Los Angeles Dodgers, such as, would the Jays be able to bounce back after the crushing 18-inning defeat just the game before? And how would they measure up against baseball's undisputed superstar, Shohei Ohtani, who would be pitching for the Dodgers? And as so often has been the case during this postseason, the answers for the Jays were provided by Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who broke the club's record for most home runs in a postseason.
Hit well to deep left center. And this one will go. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. lines one into the seats in left center, and the Blue Jays take the lead.
It was a lead that they would not surrender as the Jays added 4 more runs in their half of the 7th inning, including a long single off the wall by Bo Bichette and yet another base hit from Adam Barger.
Bichette lines the ball deep left field, over the head of Hernandez and off the wall. Here comes Jimenez. Guerrero will be held at third. Ground ball, base hit. And Guerrero is home. It is 6-1.
As for the pitcher, Shohei Ohtani went 6 innings. He gave up 6 hits and 4 runs. But his counterpart for the Jays, not too bad. Shane Bieber went 5 1/3. He scattered 4 hits and 1 run. At the plate, Ohtani was 0 for 3 last night with a walk. So now it's all tied. 2 games each. And it's right back at it tonight for the 3rd night in a row in Los Angeles. Following Toronto's win last night, Jays manager John Schneider was asked about all the hype of Ohtani versus Guerrero.
I get that it's easy to write Ohtani versus Guerrero. To us, it's Toronto versus Los Angeles, But that swing was huge. You know what I mean? That a sweeper is a pitch designed to generate pop-ups, in my opinion. And the swing that Vlad put on it was elite. And after last night and kind of all the recognition that went into Shohei individually, and he's on the mound today, it's a huge swing from Vlad. It's a huge swing to get us going. And I think that gives you some momentum. And, Shohei settled in, struck out quite a few in a row after that. But our at-bats there kind of just, it was a Blue Jay inning, you know what I mean? Varsh, Ernie, and then you kind of went to work. But the swing from Vlad was game changer.
On the mound for the Jays tonight is the rookie, Trey Savage, who still seems to be taking it all in.
I mean, I've pitched with our back against the wall already, so I've experienced it, and I'm ready to pitch with our back against the wall, or I'm ready to pitch to send this thing to Toronto.
Does anyone share anything about insights about what it's like to be on the mound in this park?
No one has said really much about it. We play in front of big crowds too, so
yeah.
We're
anything
ready.
You gleaned, though, from watching yesterday just about that experience being on the mound?
Yeah, I mean, their fans here are pretty good. They're into it the entire game, so it should be a lot of environment.
We'll stay right there.
Hey Trey, just wondering what about your journey this season has prepared you for this next biggest moment?
Every single part of it. Each day I learn something new. I take something away from my game or someone else's game. So just stacking all those days up this entire season has led me to this point.
8 o'clock Eastern time tonight on Sportsnet and all across the Blue Jays radio network. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
And it's time for our Wednesday Newsday political panel. Neil Brodie's back with us, longtime conservative commentator and strategist, ex of the Harper PMO. How are you today, Neil? Welcome back.
I'm great, Rob. How's your day going?
Well, my mood is entirely dependent on the performance of the Toronto Blue Jays, so I'm doing just fine today. And unlike yesterday, I'm well slept today as well. So, Melissa Caoutte is here, Principal MC Consulting, founder of Pocket Lobbyist. How are you, Melissa? Welcome back.
I'm well. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great to hear from you. Let's start with you, Melissa. What more do you think Prime Minister Carney could be doing to assure Canadians, I have a plan to deal with Donald Trump in the United States?
I actually think that on this topic in particular, Prime Minister Carney is doing a solid job. I was very encouraged by the tone and tenor of the meeting that he had with President Trump a few weeks back. I think that he is conducting himself in a very prime ministerial way, and I think that most Canadians would probably agree that he is representing the country well in that respect. I would say that the question is it's worth broadening, because I don't think it's, when we're talking about the Canadian relationship with the United States, it is not just about that relationship. I think the way that we deal with the United States is by developing and fostering our own leverage internally as a country. And that's economic leverage, that's diplomatic leverage. And so I think as much as the Prime Minister has to continue to keep those channels of communications positive and open with Prime Minister Trump, it's also incumbent upon him to address the things internally that he has direct control over, to make sure that Canada is well positioned to negotiate from a position of strength and not weakness. And so I think that it's two parts there. But I think that's probably what he could be doing better in terms of the internal side.
All right. What do you think, Neil?
Well, we heard earlier this week from the U.S. ambassador to Canada that a deal was available, a deal on steel, aluminum, oil, and uranium. It sounded like the auto sector in Ontario and the forestry sector in BC was being hung out to dry to achieve this steel, aluminum, oil, uranium deal, but that Canada didn't sign it. And then last week, Mr. Carney, there was a much publicized primetime TV speech where we thought we might get the announcement of a deal. Instead, an auditorium full of university students heard that life is going to be hard for the next 10 years and that they, along with all Canadians, were going to have to make sacrifices to allow the government to build stuff. This week, Mr. Carney is traveling with the Canadian media through Asia for 2 large multilateral conferences, and he's talking to the media every day. So there have been plenty of opportunities for Mr. Carney, the Prime Minister, to update Canadians on what's going on. But he's not. He's decided that Canadians will have to figure these things out on his own. So I don't know what more he could do than what's available right now.
Okay, well, let's talk about another angle to this whole thing, and that's the ad. There's the Ford ad, and there will be, according to the British Columbia Premier David Eby, there will be ads from the BC government as well, even after all of this. What should the Prime Minister be telling these premiers about these commercials? What do you think, Melissa?
Well, I think it's incredibly important that Canada is a united front when dealing with the United States, because as we have seen, cracks can become craters when it comes to sort of dividing and conquering your enemy, if you're thinking of it that way from President Trump's perspective, even though Canada is not the United States enemy. But I digress. I think that part of the challenge that Carney has to overcome in working with premiers to make sure that our message is aligned is to create and build that level of trust that the government of Canada as a federal government does care about the individual needs and nuances that matter to each of the provinces. And many provinces across the country have just gone through a decade of feeling that is not something, if you live outside of Ontario and sometimes Quebec, that the federal government cares about. And so I think that it is almost like a trust-building exercise that Carney has to continue to reinforce with premiers across the country, that he actually does care about the individual concerns, whether it's, pipelines and forestry and mining in British Columbia or supply management in Quebec. The Prime Minister has to make sure that provinces and premiers understand that he hears them and cares about them and is going to be considerate of those things, whether you're a province with a big population or not. And I think that that's not something that can be done overnight. And it's an interpersonal exercise more than it is a political one in many ways.
Yeah, but it's also freelancing. Is this not freelancing, Melissa? Aren't these two freelancing and even sacrificing potentially relations with the United States for all of Canada?
They're freelancing and it is damaging, but they are probably coming from the perspective that they have to be every man for himself because of the history that we have in this country over the past decade of that being the way to do business with the federal government. So it's a reset on the relationship that has to happen. No question that they're freelancing, no question that it's probably undermining, but the reason why those premiers feel like that's their best option is, I think, the underlying current that the Prime Minister has to address.
Okay. My own opinion, I would tell him to stick a sock in it. What about you, Neil?
Well, what can Prime Minister Carney say? Hey, Premier Ford, hey, Premier Eby, stop fighting for your constituents. At the end of the day, these premiers are politicians and want to get reelected. If what we're hearing that the auto sector and the forestry sector are going to be sacrificed for trade peace with the USA, then I expect Ontario and the BC Premier to hop off Team Canada and fight for their own, the economic survival of their own provinces. I don't know what the Prime Minister can say to them to stop this.
Okay. When we come back, anyone in the mood for November, December election? I love elections. I'll have it. Give me non-stop elections. I like elections. There's a growing belief that the Liberals actually want their budget to fail. They want an election. That's what all of this budget game of chicken is about. We'll ask our panelists about that. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's our Newsday panel. Talking politics on a Wednesday. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Back with Melissa Caoutte, Principal MC Consulting, founder, pocket lobbyist, Neil Brodie, longtime conservative commentator and strategist. I'm Rob Snow, Wednesday Newsday political panel. My personal belief is the Liberals want their budget to fail. They don't want to make compromises. They don't want to have to deal with the opposition. And I really do honestly believe that they think they can convince voters to give them the majority that they were denied just 6 months ago by some 3 seats or so. That's my belief. What do you think, Neil Brodie? The chances are there will be an election over this budget.
Short answer is 50%.
50%.
In a minority parliament, no government has the votes to support their budget until the day to vote on the budget arrives. In the first 5 years of the Harper government, which were minority parliaments, the government gave the opposition parties, the NDP or the Bloc, depending on who it was, something they could support in each budget so that the government could survive. Today, let's look at the NDP. Today, they have no leader, they have no money, and realistically, if there is an election this fall, there's a 50% chance that the NDP comes back with fewer seats than they have right now. So I expect the NDP to support the budget. However, being a resident of Ontario, and as my friend Jeff Turner likes to remind me, the provincial Liberals here in Ontario presented a budget in 2014. It was a minority parliament. They were counting on the NDP to support to pass the budget. Budget day, Andrea Horwath, the leader of the NDP, went out and said she wouldn't support the budget. She kind of, hinted that she wouldn't support the budget. And so Kathleen went straight to the lieutenant governor and asked for an election to be called. And nobody was expecting an election that day, but that's what Ontarians got. So no matter how certain you are that there won't be an election, who knows what's going to happen.
What do you think, Melissa?
I'm going to go contrary to Neil on this. I think it's a little bit less likely for some of the same reasons that Neil's just stated. Just on a pure logistics perspective, let's say that the budget, we're seeing the budget on November 4th. Let's say that week it fails some kind of confidence vote that would trigger an election. 36 days from November 4th is mid-December. That is a nightmare period of time to be running an election in the middle of winter, when we have just heard from the Bank of Canada that we're lowering interest rates, which could signal economic contractions, where we have trade uncertainty. And let's be clear, too, even though Mark Carney has been doing a pretty good job, it's not as though they are pulling crazily high over the Conservatives at this point. They are still leading, but many polls put them within the margin of error. The NDP are so weak right now, as Neil said. They have no money. They have no capacity to run in an election. They have no choice but to support the budget. So just from a math perspective, based on when the timing of a budget would be and even how the vote would work, I think it's incredibly unlikely that we're going to see the NDP vote against the Liberal budget. And I think it's also very interesting because, you talked about the fact that maybe they don't want to make compromises. Let's see what's in that budget. I mean, we are dealing with a different prime minister and different leadership than we had in the past. Of course, if we were looking at another Trudeau budget, the thought that the Trudeau didn't want to make compromises would make me a lot more fearful than it does with Carney. So I obviously lean more conservative, and I'm a little bit worried about what we're going to see, but I think I'm willing to give he and his team a chance to see what kind of new normal he sets in terms of what we can expect from Liberal budgets moving forward. So that's what I think.
I would just say all the uncertainty in the economy, anxiety that's out there right now is the perfect excuse for the Liberals to say, look, we need a steady hand at running things here right now. And you trusted us 6 months ago. Trust us even more now.
Without a deal,
the more diabolical side of me says, well, the NDP's problems are the NDP's problems. They're not the Liberal Party's problems. And let's get rid of the NDP once and for all. Let's just finish them off. And mid-December voting day with Poilievre facing a leadership review in January. Let's make that let's make that guy a two-time loser. Our guy's more popular than him. Let's make that guy a two-time loser going into his leadership review. That's how I kind of see it.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't think Carney can go to election without a deal with the U.S.
Okay, all right. We'll be right back. A few more things we need to talk about when we come back on our Newsday political panel on News Radio.
You have questions.
Now you know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Yeah, Wednesday Newsday political panel. Neil Brodie, Melissa Caoutte here, talking politics. I mean, I hear Don Davies, he's the interim NDP leader, and he said, well, we can't afford an austerity budget. We won't vote for an austerity budget. But then I listened to him as well, and he is crying out for help. The NDP's immediate priority is, they want House of Commons resources. They're broke. They need to hire staff. They need to do research. And I think that could be a wild card in any budget talks. What do you think, Neil?
Listen, there are others out there that are smarter than me on this topic. But I don't disagree that it would be a good bargaining chip to get some support from the NDP. Funding of parties is something that's very regulated by statute. So this would have to be something done by the administration of the House of Commons. The administration of the House of Commons is governed by something called the Board of Internal Economy, and it's made up of MPs plus the Speaker. I'll be honest with you, Rob. I don't really know how that works in detail, but you'd have to get some agreement, I think, from the Bloc or the Conservatives to bring that into effect.
Interesting. Okay. Any thoughts on that, Melissa?
I mean, along what Neil is saying, the NDP is so incredibly weak right now, and the political party that benefits most from it being a two-party versus three-party system in Canada are the Liberals. So I don't think that if the Liberals are going to throw a wild card, I don't necessarily know that they'd want to throw the NDP a lifeline if we're talking just political calculation here, that the NDP really has no choice but to support them. So I don't actually know that the Liberals need to give them anything to get that support. So that's, I think, where we're at there.
All right. Hey, Neil, tomorrow is the 30th anniversary of the 1995 Quebec referendum. Where were you 30 years ago tomorrow?
I had taken 4 years off between high school and university, so I was 25 years old in third year university I believe it was a Monday night, if Google's right in telling me that. I was probably studying or drinking my face off, one or the other.
You weren't watching it? You weren't all wrapped up in
No.
it? No, you
25
weren't.
years old,
Okay.
third year university. What were you doing, Rob? What were you doing?
I was watching it. As I've said this week in my living. There may have been beer involved, but yeah, I was watching it. I was not quite 25. I was in my 20s. I'm trying to think.
There you
1995. 24. I would have been 24. Living in Centertown in Ottawa. Yeah, watching it come in with my roommate, the Saskatchewan farm boy. What about you, Melissa? Do you remember
I was
it?
absolutely watching it at 3 years
Yeah?
old and thinking to
Oh, 3 years
myself,
old.
wow,
Okay.
this is some crazy history that's unfolding. No,
3 years
I was not, able to, synthesize politics at the age of that happened, but it's kind of funny because it feels like we're sort of having a return to some of that sentiment in Alberta right now. So I didn't live through that time, but I'm living through this time, and we'll chat again in 30 years and we can talk about what that looks like.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, thank you. Good to talk to both of you. We'll speak
Always a
soon.
pleasure, Rob.
Bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Neil Brodie, ex of the PMO, longtime Harper PMO, longtime conservative strategist there, and commentator. Melissa Caoutte, MC Consulting and pocket lobbyist. Talkback, we're going to talk about the economy today. How do you think the economy is doing? Bank of Canada cut interest rates today. So let's just talk about the economy on Talkback today, right after the news on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic is the economy. And here are some questions just to get the conversation going at 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. I mean, the big question is, how's the economy doing? How's the economy doing in your opinion? Let's just start right there. How's the economy doing? And how would you say you're feeling about Canada's economy right now? Would you say you're feeling optimistic about things? Would you say you're worried, concerned, on edge, pessimistic, very pessimistic? When you think about Canada's economy, what are your thoughts, please, on where things stand right now? How's the economy doing, in your opinion? One of the reasons we want to ask this question today is because of today's news from the Bank of Canada. It's not unexpected, but big news nonetheless. Bank of Canada lowered interest rates today. And the Bank of Canada wouldn't be doing that if the economy was humming along just fine. And this economy has some problems, according to the Bank of Canada. In its statement accompanying the rate announcement, the Bank of Canada said the export side of the economy isn't doing well, obviously, because of tariffs. But it also pointed out that the consumer, hey, that's us, seems to be hanging in there. It said that household spending is actually up, despite all the news reports of people living paycheck to paycheck and being tapped out. The central bank today said it expects, when everything's said and done, that the economy will have been weak in the second half of this year. And I mean, we're well into the second half of the year now. It's almost November. We're crying out loud. But it also pointed out the job market isn't great. Quote unquote, the labor market is soft, is what it said. On inflation, it's called it sticky. Inflation is sticky at around 3% for the measure that the Bank of Canada likes to look at, but it says the inflation situation should improve in the coming months, which would be welcome news. It also says there's not much that the Bank of Canada can do about trade. That's a government problem, not the Bank of Canada's problem. And if it tries to do anything more than it's doing now, it would just add fuel to the inflationary fire, and that's the last thing it wants to do. Bank of Canada today cutting rates. Even though it says consumers, that's us, says we're weathering the storm, but does see trouble spots in the economy. And it lowered interest rates. That's the view of the central bankers, okay, in Ottawa. We want your view. Those of you listening right now, just going about your day, managing your household budget as best you can, trying to keep a roof over your head, food on the table, gas in the car, pay all the bills, make sure there's some money left over at the end of the month. Because that's the real economy. How do you feel about the economy right now? For example, what are you seeing out there? When you go to the mall, I mean, is the mall busy? When you drive around town, do you see more homes for sale than you usually would? If homes are listed, do they seem to be selling? Are they sitting there longer? Not selling? Give me a sense of it. How's home building doing? Are they building a lot of homes where you live? Do you see a lot of new home construction? A lot of construction workers building homes, or does that seem to have slowed down? Just give us a sense of what you're seeing. When you look across the skyline, do you see a lot of cranes? Are they building things like new apartment buildings and new condos? What construction activity do you see? Is it busy in the construction business these days? Give us a better sense of that, just based on what you're seeing or what you're hearing when you speak with people in the know. On the jobs front, what are you hearing? What do you know? If you've been looking for a job or know someone who's been looking for a job, how's that going? What's that like? I mean, it was all over the news during the summer about how hard it was for young people to find a job. What about everyone else? Bank of Canada says the labor market's soft. How would you describe it? When you're out and about, do you see help wanted signs in storefront windows? What about things like major purchases, taking a trip, maybe going down south when the colder weather sets in, buying new furniture, buying a new appliance, buying a new vehicle, doing home renovations? How's all of that doing? Are you holding off on making a major purchase? You know, if you're in any of those businesses, the real estate business, the travel business, the home renovation business, if you're selling big ticket items, appliances, electronics, vehicles, how's business? How's business? Because there's what the economists say, and there's what the politicians say. And then there's what you will say. And it's your opinion that matters most of all to us. What we're looking for is kind of an economic snapshot at the Main Street level. You know, we're kind of doing our own consumer confidence survey, I guess you could say. Canada's economy. How's it doing? How is it doing? At ground level, at our level, what are you seeing out there with your own two eyes? How's the economy doing? How are you feeling about the economy right now? Optimistic, worried, pessimistic? And what is it that's happening in the economy that makes you feel the way you do? 1-833-668-2577. That is our call-in line. 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that. We'll make your call a priority. How's the economy doing? How do you feel about the economy? I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, the Bank of Canada cut interest rates today. That's a big news story today. I want to ask you about the economy and just how you think the economy is doing. How's it doing in your opinion? How are you feeling about the economy, the Canadian economy right now? Optimistic, concerned, pessimistic? Why do you feel the way you do? 1-833-668-2577. 3 lines available there for you. To Guelph, Ontario. Scott. Hello, Scott. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm very good, Scott. Thank you. How's the economy doing, do you think?
The economy is fair. I'm just driving around. I've noticed my wife and I were commenting on how many homes are for sale right now, although I am seeing a lot of sold signs on those homes. So I do believe they are flipping fairly quickly. One of the comments or the questions you had on earlier was related to how many new homes. I'm seeing a lot of land development with the rezoning signs, but I'm not seeing any new progress. There's some infill happening a little bit north of Guelph. A lot of infill happening, but some of these promised new builds, I'm not seeing them. No new large infrastructure, and downtown Guelph has a number of larger apartment condo buildings that have been going up in the past few years, but not really seeing a whole lot of expansion beyond.
Okay. So that seems to
From a
be slowing
business
down.
standpoint-
Like if you like a construction crane activity seems to be a little on the slow side, you would say?
Slower in the compared to the last 5 years or so. Definitely the number of cranes have diminished.
All right. Okay.
That's Guelph for you, though. And Guelph is definitely a suburb of Toronto now. But as I mentioned, I'm north of the city, and it's fascinating to see the number of areas where, again, there is zoning for new residential, but it's just not happening.
Okay.
Whether or not there's demand for it, I believe there's demand. I will give you another scenario. My neighbor's house sat on the market for 8 months last year before it was finally sold. But I think that's history now, and today the economy is a little bit more booming. Will this interest rate have anything to do with the economy? I don't know. My personal opinion is it'll never be cheaper than it is today. So if you're looking at a big investment or a big purchase, today is the day. With inflation continuing to rise, we'll never have a more opportunistic opportunity to make that investment today, and it'll never be cheaper.
It'll never be cheaper. Okay. All right. Thank you, Scott. You've got us off to a good start today. On the economy of 1-833-668-2577. Lines available. Doug is in Halifax. Hi, Doug.
Good afternoon, Rob. Good afternoon, Rob.
Very good to hear from you, Doug. How would you say the economy's doing?
I don't think it's doing very well at all, and I think that's what Trump designed to do or wanted to do to us. He mentioned that instead of going to war with us, he's gonna financially kill us. And right now, he's doing a good job, I think. But what else? What do you think of that? Now, do you think any accuracy to that, or?
Well, I'm trying to bring it down to more of a community level than that.
Okay. Well,
I mean, let's say, for example, you go to the big shopping mall in Halifax. Is it busy there?
I was there today, and it wasn't very busy at all. And I was sort of surprised by that because I was in there just prior to school opening, and it was jam packed then. But of course, everybody's getting ready to go back to school. But no, I think it's you get a lot of cranes around here, but everybody I talk to and people we talk to, it's just not good for them. You know what I'm saying? They're living payday to payday, week to week. Can I say something before
Yeah, sure.
I was not a supporter of Trudeau, especially Trudeau, the Liberals in the past, and I didn't even vote for Carney. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think he's the man for the job right now, whether it's timing or whatever the case may be, because sorry about that. And I think what he should do, myself, is take a budget, go with his budget, and see who's got the guts to turn him down. Don't get a deal with the NDP or the Bloc or the Tories. Just get it done and see who wants to pull the plug. And I don't think Poilievre wants to pull the plug neither. The Bloc may be different, but no, I don't think they'll want to shut it down and that's just because I think it's just being silly. The man is doing what he can do. I don't think anybody's done a good job or got a win with Trump, and he's determined. He's determined to shut us down.
Right, but on the topic of the day, you really just you have confidence in Carney. That's fine, in Prime Minister Carney. But on the economy, you just don't think it's doing well. And you're putting most of the blame
No,
for that
no.
on Trump. Yeah. Okay. All right.
For sure.
Even in
yeah.
Halifax, which has been a boomtown. Halifax supposed to be boomtown.
Well, there may be lots of cranes around and lots of stuff going on, but I don't know. When the people you talk to, they're not having a good time.
Okay, Doug. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. How's the economy doing? What are you seeing out there, everyone? Give us a sense of things right now. From real estate to shopping activity, the labor market. What's your sense of it? What are you hearing? What's the conversation like with your circle, your friends, your family? How's the economy doing? On Talkback today on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
How is the economy doing in your opinion? I mean, it's a pretty basic question. How's the economy doing? There's really no wrong answer, is there? And how do you feel about the economy, the state of the economy? I mean, are you optimistic? Are you a little worried? Are you pessimistic? Give us a sense of it. Bob in Halifax up next. Hello, Bob.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome, Bob. How's the economy doing?
Well, I'll tell you, it depends on where you are and what you're doing. For the people on the lower income spectrum, it's getting worse and it's going to get worse. But when I look at the cranes around Halifax, for example, there's a few less of them now than there was. But you got to remember, it takes 2 to 10 years to get a crane in the air from the time you get the plan that you take to the municipality. The big problem in housing, and I've been in it for 50-some years, semi-retired now, is that the municipalities are what driving the cost up and taking so long to get things done.
And how do they do that for the uninitiated? Just how do they do that?
Well, they got so much red tape. Is one thing. They can eliminate that. When you go to a municipality, at one time you go there and they would say, what can we do to help you get your project off the ground? And now it's just, how can we get you to pay for all the infrastructure in the whole town and fix up stuff we neglected for years? That's one thing. The other thing is that the government is getting twice as much HST on a new house sale now that they were getting 2 or 3 years ago, because of the price of the house is doubled. And they haven't increased the rebates to first-time home buyers or other buyers, getting some of that money back in the HST. So it's a windfall for the government and more cost to the consumer. So those are things that can be done to bring the price of housing down and help spur on the construction of housing. All these government grants are basically geared for low-income housing nonprofit developments. If you want development, you get a developer who's in there. He's got to make a profit, but he's the one who knows how to do it.
So let me ask you, Bob, because you have a lot of experience, especially when it comes to home construction. You mentioned the crane activity in the kind of the urban area there. What about things in the burbs and like expanding that kind of home construction? How's that doing? There was a time they couldn't build them fast enough. What's going on there?
Well, I still think that they still having trouble building them fast enough. A lot of builders have gone to manufactured housing because while they're putting in the foundation and getting all the site work done, the house can be built, so it all comes together a lot faster. It's not necessarily cheaper to do it that way, but you know exactly what your costs are going to be when you're done. So that's why a lot of manufactured or consumers and builders have switched to that. But it's still the red tape that you got to go through to do those things, and the cost for infrastructure that's put all on the new developer, even to fix up the old infrastructure that's been neglected for years.
Okay. So has construction slowed down at all, in your opinion, recently?
No, it hasn't. It's slowed. It's starting to slow down, but you got to remember, most of us builders have started their plans a year or two ago, and once you start it, it's really hard to stop. You've got to finish the project, you got your financing in place, and then you're hoping for the best. So short time from now, it's going to show that I predict anyways that it's going to slow down because the consumer can't afford it.
All right, Bob. Hey, thank you for sharing your insight there. Very interesting. That's Bob in Halifax. We'll stop here. If you're on the line, just hang on the line. Chris and Straven and Abe, we'll get to you after a news update. Very busy in the news today again. We'll bring you right up to date coming up. And then more of your calls on the economy. How's the economy doing, in your opinion? On Talkback today on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Well, the Bank of Canada cut interest rates today. It doesn't do that if the economy's in tip-top shape. We just want to know today how you think the economy is doing and how you're feeling about the state of the economy. By that, we mean, are you optimistic about things? Worried? Are you on the worried side? Pessimistic? 1-833-668-2577 to Chris up next. Hi, Chris.
How are you doing?
I'm very good, Chris. How's the economy doing, in your opinion?
In my opinion, in the stats that support it, it's terrible. Our collective debt on credit cards is what, 114 billion? A budget that the Liberals are too scared to put out because they know what's going to happen is about expected to be 100 billion plus. Let's look at some other examples in the last 10 years of a Liberal government. 60 million for ArriveCan, 300 million to Quebec pharma plants, EV batteries that have gone nowhere. Stellantis is fresh off the block. 20 billion to Ukraine, 90 billion plus misplaced infrastructure money. COVID cost us 350 billion. Go to the grocery store right now, Costco, for example. Bacon has gone from, let's say, $17.99 to $28.99. Gas has doubled. Insurance has doubled. And in the last 6 months, 8 months that Donald Trump has been in place, that's the guy we're going to blame. Why don't we maybe look at our own state of affairs, our own backyard, and look at a Liberal government? Nobody even talks about Trudeau anymore. He's gone. He's dating somebody in Hollywood, and everything's cool. It's not cool because the rest of us, as evidenced by the NDP government having nothing left, Singh sitting on a $20 million pension, they don't care. These politicians come in and make decisions.
Okay.
No?
I get it. I get it. I'm trying to bring it down to kind of the household level, Main Street level. Like, what are you seeing around Calgary? Lots of people want to move to Calgary. Calgary led the country in job creation, in the last month. Alberta seems to be doing okay. How is the economy doing, in your opinion, at the Main Street level? What are you seeing out there?
Well, what I'm seeing, or what I'm having the courage to see, is rows and rows and rows of a middle class getting wiped out after post-COVID. Yes, COVID was COVID, but fiscal policies and mismanagement at the highest level is affecting the lower to middle class. How is that evidenced? I've spoken to police officers. I visited Nova Scotia, and the question was, where are all your homeless? Well, we have homeless. And he said, well, not quite like Edmonton in Alberta. There's rows and rows and rows of people that cannot make it in today's economy. It's very apparent. This isn't my personal opinion. This is evidence.
Okay. All right, Chris. Thank you. Chris thinks the economy's terrible. And as I said, no wrong answers. If that's, Chris's impression of things, that's Chris's impressions of things. Cheryl is in Guelph. A second call from Guelph today. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello, Rob. Thanks for taking
Hi,
my
Cheryl.
call.
You're welcome. How's the economy doing in your opinion?
I got to say, I agree with everything your previous caller, Chris, was saying.
Okay.
I am very pessimistic.
Very pessimistic. Okay.
Very pessimistic. What I see here in Guelph, you had a caller from Guelph saying that homes are selling. They're not. I see a lot more homes listed in the immediate neighborhood I live in and throughout Guelph, and they're not moving. They're sitting. I see people in the grocery store. They got less in their carts, picking up things, putting it back on the shelf, looking at the price.
I see that all the time.
And as for myself, I'm fortunate. I do work part-time, and I work in healthcare, so I have a pretty secure position. I'm past retirement age, but I will see myself continuing to work just to survive. And in terms of buying things, everything is meted out very carefully every month. Just as an example, I don't eat out. I only eat out once a year on my birthday, if I do that, and I never eat out. Home purchases, I have to balance everything. If I want to replace a microwave, that's going to be maybe this month. Next quarter, something else has to be put off till the next quarter of money coming in. So it's pay the bills first, and if anything's left over, that's it.
You're making every dollar stretch absolutely as far as it can go, right?
I don't go to movie theaters. I don't go out to concerts. Everything is cut right back to the necessities. I'm sure many other people are doing the same thing. And also we have seen at all the food banks throughout Canada are citing increased visits by people there.
Oh, yes. There was a big report about that this week. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could just ask you a question, you say you're seeing more homes that are listed for sale, say in your neighborhood, your surrounding area there, and they seem to they've been on the market for a while. You're saying, right? How much would those homes be? Do you have an idea?
Well, as an idea, the house right beside me went up for sale. It used to be a rental. They decided to sell it because of family situation. It was listed at $599. And it's like a linked townhouse.
Well, okay.
And that went. They got it $599, and I don't think it's moved. A couple streets down, they go for maybe $700,000. They're detached, 2-story, maybe 2,000 square foot home, $799 or so. But yeah, I don't see anything. Nothing's moving. And I do drive out in the countryside. I'm seeing a lot more farms and rural properties up for sale. A lot of them are going up for sale. Just driving from Guelph to Erin, which is about a 40-minute drive, I think I saw about half a dozen of them for sale. So it's not looking good. And I really don't think people should. I think people have to get over this Trump derangement syndrome. Not everything's caused by Trump. We have to pull up our boots and stand as a country and stop pointing the finger at somebody else.
But you're saying times are tough. Times are tight.
Oh, yes. And as I say, I'm just thankful that I still work part-time, that I still have some extra money coming in, because I don't think I could do it on a retiree's fund income.
All right. Cheryl, thank you. Good to hear from you in Guelph, Ontario today. There you go. Two rather pessimistic views of the economy there. What about you? What are you seeing out there, everyone? When you go shopping, when you walk around the neighborhood, when you talk to your friends and family about economic matters, looking for jobs, these sorts of things. How's that economy doing, in your opinion? It's in Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
How would you say the economy is doing, in your opinion? How are you feeling about the economy? Optimistic, worried, pessimistic? Why do you feel that way? What's happening? What are you seeing out there? 1-833-668-2577. Josh is up next in Calgary. Hi, Josh.
Hey, how are you today?
Yeah, very good, Josh. How's the economy doing, in your opinion?
You know what? In my opinion, there's kind of two areas that I look at. Is one, how much money do you have left after you pay everything off? Let's say on a semi-monthly or monthly basis. And then secondly, what is everybody saying, right, when they're going to the grocery store, and how much are they spending? So what I'm hearing, specifically more from a local perspective, I'm in Calgary, and what my friends are saying is that they just have less. They have less to spend. They're spending the same amount, right, on a consistent basis, but it just costs more. Everything costs a lot more to get. So groceries, your rent, gas, etc. Right. So there's a huge feeling of just that it's just costing a lot more to pretty much survive. Right. It doesn't draw back from the fact that you know what, the Calgary economy is actually doing well. There's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of positivity on the road with regards to, you know, finding new employment. It's just, you know, are these jobs, you know, paying you or catching up with what inflation is actually doing? And that's probably the biggest question right now, right? And the answer and the whole feeling right now is that it isn't, right? So we're getting paid okay in comparison to maybe a year ago. But, you know, if you compare it to where everything is or what everything is costing right now, it just isn't catching up. Right. And I don't think our government has been proactive enough in really addressing that. And maybe they just don't know how. Right. They don't have the expertise, too, because it's been quite a challenge with all the new additions to the government and changes that I don't think there's ever been that sort of expertise within the last 12 months to really address this.
Okay. But otherwise, you're saying like household budgets. That's the big thing. Household budgets are tight because of the rising cost of living, right?
I think that's what really changes the sentiment in everyone, right? Like if your household budget is not necessarily like changing in terms of what you're bringing in, but you know what you're spending on just the basic needs, that's going to change your sentiment right away, right? Like there's a good number of people in Calgary that are doing quite well, but not everybody has that privilege, right?
Right. So there's less disposable income to spend.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So you know, this makes you wonder. You know, if you went to say a family restaurant in Calgary, you know, would it be busy? If you went to a shopping mall, would it be busy? Like, what are you seeing? You know.
You know what? Interestingly enough, I'm seeing a lot of these are busy, right? Like they're not necessarily slowing down whatsoever. So people are definitely spending money. But it's not as busy as it used to be, where, you know, you'd have to make reservations to some of these restaurants. You could pretty much get in, right, on a Friday night and a Saturday night, which is not common, or it wasn't common before. You would generally have to wait. I recently went to one over the weekend, and I got to say, like, you know, spending $300-400, you know, at a dinner is pretty common, right? But not everybody can do it. But it wasn't as busy as it used to be, let's say, a year ago, where I would want to take out my spouse and I'd have to make a reservation. And if I didn't, I was in trouble because I'd have to wait 45 minutes to an hour.
So this $300 to $400 dinner tab, I mean, how many people are at dinner?
I mean, the restaurant is full. There's
No, but I mean, if you're going to spend $300 or $400, if the bill comes in, it's $300 or $400. How many people are eating? I just want to get right.
Yeah,
2?
I mean, there's probably like 60 to 70 people at that restaurant, I would imagine, right? I don't know the exact head count, but yeah, it's a good number. I feel like everybody here is trying to live their life as they normally would. It's just costing a lot more.
Right. Okay. And restaurants, you say, where you used to have to make a reservation, you don't necessarily have to do that anymore.
I don't see that anymore. It's not common.
Yeah, you don't see that
in my area.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's interesting. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, thank you. Josh out in Calgary, 1-833-668-2577. Talking about the economy today with the Bank of Canada cutting interest rates today. That's all about the economy. Worried about the economy. What's your sense of things, everyone? 1-833-668-2577. Lots of lines available, lots of time to fit you in. Love to hear your opinions and what you're seeing out there on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
How's the economy doing? What are you seeing out there? What are you hearing from your friends, from your coworkers, family members about the state of the economy? Doug is up next. Doug's in Calgary. Hi, Doug.
Hello, how you doing?
Hi, Doug. Yeah, very good, Doug. Yeah, good to hear from you. How's the economy doing in your opinion?
Well, I only called in just recently because of your last caller who had mentioned, you know, to go out for dinner or something is $300 to $400. I think that realistically, that would probably be a party of like 6 or 8 people, I think. But the reason I'm calling is I took my wife out for dinner the other night, and I made a reservation to a popular restaurant and in Calgary. And when I got there, we had a reservation. It was wonderful, but the whole place was practically empty. And the last time I was there was probably a year or two before that, but we clearly did not need to make a reservation. And now our bill was nowhere near $300 or $400. It was closer to $100. But I can tell definitely, because I actually don't live in Calgary. I live rural, just outside of Calgary. But to come into Calgary, I thought, well, I should make a reservation because I assumed that I would need one. But clearly I did not. I actually could tell you that there was 80% of that restaurant open. And so if I didn't make a reservation, it wouldn't have made a deal at all. It wouldn't have mattered.
Wouldn't have mattered. Right.
Exactly. So anyways, I feel like people are kind of feeling the crunch here, at least in Alberta and maybe Calgary. But yeah, I don't think things are the way they were, even a couple of years ago, maybe more than that. But I mean, it's not the same as it used to be, Rob. That's for sure.
So Doug, if I could, this place that you went to, it's normally a like a pretty popular spot.
Yeah, you betcha. And you know what?
And what night did you go? Did you go on a Friday or a Saturday night when a place would be busy?
You betcha. I went on a Friday night with my wife. And if it was a different night of the week, I wouldn't even thought about making a reservation. But I thought, well, Friday could be busy. So I thought, you know what, I should make a table for 2. But there was literally 80% of the restaurant completely open. And we didn't need to make a reservation. But it was nice that we had one. But at the same time, it wasn't necessary.
Just peace of mind. What time did you make the reservation for?
Exactly 6 p.m. Mountain
6
time.
p.m.
So
yeah,
you betcha. So it was interesting to see because we just live outside of Calgary, but on a farm. But at the same time, I just expected it to be, extremely busy. And oh my gosh, I was totally mistaken.
That's interesting. All right, thank you, Doug. Yeah, good to hear from you. Why don't we stop here? If I bring you on right now, you'd only have 30 seconds. I don't want to do that to you because I'll probably have some follow-up questions for you when I ask you, how is the economy doing with the Bank of Canada cutting interest rates again today? That's why we're asking about the economy. How you feeling about things right now as well? And when you talk to neighbors, family, friends, coworkers, whatever the case might be, just about the state of things with the economy, jobs, real estate, consumer spending, Doug going to a restaurant expecting it to be busy and it's not really busy. I mean, are you optimistic? Are you concerned? Are you pessimistic? Just what is it that you're seeing in the economy right now that makes you feel the way you do? We'll pick things up right after the latest breaking news. That's coming up next. And then right back to more of your calls in hour number 2 of Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
So, Bank of Canada cut interest rates today. The economy's a little shaky, uncertain. So we want to ask you about the economy today and how you think the economy is doing at a Main Street level, at a neighborhood level. How are you feeling about the economy right now? Optimistic, concerned, pessimistic? What is it that makes you feel the way you do? 1-833-668-2577. We've been enjoying the conversation so far. Let's take Billy's call up next. Hi, Billy.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm very good, Billy. Thank you.
So I really like your question, and I like that you're looking at the household kind of point of view. And just coming from my point of view, I'm a relatively young household. Me and my husband are both in our mid to early 30s. We've got 2 young kids. We both have really good jobs, and we're in Calgary, so we're both in finance. Myself, I'm in the oil sector. So we're doing really well for ourselves. However, when you look at
okay.
however when you look at what you have left after what you have left after you're paying all your bills, I'd agree the sentiment from all the callers. You have way less things that cost a lot more right now. There's a lot of things that impact your monthly budget, and taking into consideration even small things like family birthdays. What are you going to gift somebody? How much are you going to spend? You're thinking about that stuff now when maybe a couple of years ago you weren't. So it's as simple as making sure that you're not traveling from one end of the city to the other, so your gas expenses aren't as much. And we've got family living all the way up north, and we're all the way south. So that's things that we're taking into consideration. And so I would definitely say that people who even make 5 figures combined income of like over 200,000 family income, your dollars are stretched. You're looking forward to tax returns. You're looking forward or hoping that you're going to get your bonuses. So times are tough. Glad to see interest rates are going down, but I feel like that kind of stuff, you don't feel the effect of it until months later. So times are tough, I would say.
Times are tough. And you're doing well. You're doing well, as you said, but times are still tight, and you're thinking about, making every dollar go as far as it can possibly go. I'm just wondering, how you see this kind of playing out in your community. The last caller, for example, mentioned, well, I went to a pretty popular restaurant on a Friday night with my wife in Calgary, made a reservation because it's usually busy. They sat us down right away, and the place was more than half empty. What are you seeing out there, like when you go shopping or go to restaurants or whatever the case might be? Is it busy?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Restaurants are not as busy. You definitely don't need reservations for popular spots as much as you did before. Grocery stores, you can see people are buying less, are really looking for the flyers to see the discounts. My husband and I were constantly looking at the flyers, especially meat. Meat is a really expensive product to purchase. So if you're a big family and you're meat eaters, you look for those discounts. We go out, not often, but we go out once in a while, definitely. We're looking at spending about $150, and we're going to like places like Boston Pizza, like nowhere expensive.
Right.
Even if you go to McDonald's, even if you're going to McDonald's, you're spending at least $60 if you're getting 4 meals. That's kind of where the pricing is at. So it adds up. It racks up. You're looking at the $5, $10 here. So that's what we're seeing.
Wow. Okay. All right. Really interesting, Billy. Thank you. There you go. Times are tight. Making good money, but times are tight. Make every dollar count. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. John is up next. Hi, John.
How you doing, Rob?
Yeah, good, John. Thanks.
Listen, bud, give me some latitude here because this all comes down to it. I used to be IT, right? I was watching a newscast last night on MSNBC, and they had a guy on there talking about AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, with AI, there's two things about it. AI is taking away jobs. So this is the calm before the storm, because Amazon is getting rid of 14,000 white-collar people. They want to clean house 660,000 people. They want to get rid of over the next 10 years. For kids coming out of school, they have no chance of getting a job, right? There's no jobs there. And this guy was suggesting, you know what the jobs are going to be? Electricians, taking care of the hardware, all the data centers and all that. They're going to need tons of electricians, right? So we have to get on top of it right now, get the government, start getting people hired on as electricians and stuff, even though they want to be, in the business world. Sorry, bud. The jobs are disappearing, and they're going fast. He was talking about all kinds of different companies, like Indeed and all that, shedding jobs like crazy. And this is, like I said, this is the beginning before the storm. So when it comes to the money, right now it's expensive, but it's nothing that's going to, when it comes to all these people getting laid off. So labor work, in the sense of electricians, welders, and all that, that's where the jobs are going to be, because the robots are taking over within the next 10 years. And guess what? This person looked at the AI and put in bad stuff. Said, try to get it to turn bad. It turned bad. What happened was they told the AI to turn off, and he turned around. The AI did open up all the Hotmail, found a piece of paper. One of the emails in there.
So we're going to be governed by AI overlords. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, like, where are you today? Where are you today? You're in Calgary, right?
Oh, I'm in
You're
Halifax. I'm in Halifax.
Oh, you're in Halifax. Okay.
And if it wasn't for Gateway, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know if you ever heard of Gateway meat markets, but they sell meat. Like people come from New Brunswick to buy meat here. Two ex-Sobeys guys started about 20 years ago, and it is booming. They've already upsized it about once or twice, and you could buy a load of food there for like $200, right? You couldn't buy that meat like that anywhere else. Right. Anywhere else. And if it wasn't for that, I tell you, we'd be eating a lot of low-grade stuff.
Well,
right?
How's Halifax doing though? How's Halifax doing? I mean, you're a pretty tuned-in guy there. How's it doing?
It is actually, it's booming right now. I just came from Halifax. I live up in Muscatavit, so it's 45 minutes away. And there's construction going on everywhere. There's cranes everywhere. And they're doing all the roads over. So there's all kinds of jobs now, right, in Halifax. It's, like I said, half the population of Nova Scotia lives in Halifax.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Everyone's
and Halifax has all the hospitals, and Halifax has all the universities, and Halifax is the capital of Nova Scotia. So, it has that advantage to it. It always has. You'd be curious to know when you get an hour and a half outside of Halifax, how are things? It'd be interesting to know that too.
Oh, very expensive. Very expensive.
Yeah, and probably very different. Yeah. Okay.
All
right.
$11, right?
Sure. John, got to run. Thanks for the call, though. Thanks for the warning. I, for one, welcome our AI overlords. I submit. 1-833-668-2577. Back to the question, everyone. Let's not lose sight of it. How's the economy doing? Bank of Canada cut interest rates today because it's worried about the economy. What about you? Are you worried about the economy? Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Linda in Southern Alberta up next on Talkback, talking about the economy today. Linda, how would you say the economy is doing?
Well, I don't think it's doing good.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Well, I went shopping looking for an outfit for a wedding, and I'm going in the stores, and it's like, where's your stock? Like, you have hardly anything in here. Or there's no clothes. I thought there was a store down here. It's no longer there. So I just see a lot of real stores going out of business. And as far as going out to eat, I think Josh is in the elite few, because I have family members that live in Calgary. They do not go out to eat anymore. It's just not an option.
At all?
No.
Or go to eat at all? No.
Well, they go, no, if they're going to have any people come in, right? Instead of going out. Because it's just not an option to do that. And I know I have a family member in oil and gas sector too, and he's a little leery. He thinks there's big layoffs coming on. So
there have been some layoffs.
More layoffs.
Yeah.
But more layoffs. And if we have a premier
ConocoPhillips announced some layoffs the other day. Imperial Oil was the big news because I was in Calgary, head office jobs, 900 head office jobs. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to hurt, because that money's not coming into the economy. Like, we're not.
Well, of course.
People don't have jobs, so you're not spending. So, yeah, I don't know. No, not to me. And if we have a government that says they don't have the money to pay our teachers, so, yeah.
Well, the government is not saying they don't have the money to pay the teachers. They just not as much money as the teachers would like to be paid, I guess.
Well, yeah, but
hire as many teachers as the teachers union wants them to hire, and as many support staff, and to build as many schools, and all of this kind
Well,
of stuff.
the only
right?
thing is they said they would build 130 schools, and they would make classroom sizes smaller. That's their big ads that they're putting on the TV. And they're going to hire X amount of new teachers and X amount of new aides. But when they're negotiating, they would not negotiate teacher-student ratio. And that's classroom size, is it not?
Well, classroom size. The union. I don't want to get too off track and back into the teacher situation.
But
I'm
I'm
waiting
just
to
saying
hear what
because of that,
what the other unions are going to do, and because Premier Smith used the notwithstanding clause, I kind of want to stay focused on the issue today. I mean, in the teachers' dispute, certainly, the teachers said it's more than money. They were offered a 12% raise. Say that's 4% a year or whatever it is. That's greater than the rate of inflation. But they're saying, well, we've fallen further behind because of the inflation in the economy. So that's it's an economic story as much as anything else. You're right there, Linda. Thank you for your call, though. Gonna move along though. Len is up next. Hi, Len.
Oh. Hello.
Hi, Len. On the economy, Len, how do you think it's doing?
Well, I have a slightly different view that most people would have.
You always do.
For bottles. 2 years ago, I could go out for 4 hours with my van, so I'm moving around quite a bit, and get $250 worth. Beginning of this year, that dropped to $150 as soon as Trump was elected. And now I can spend 12 to 14 hours and get less than $50 in a night.
Wow. So what do you think is going on there? What do you think is going on there?
Well, the first obvious thing is the people can't afford to throw the bottles away. They got to cash them in themselves.
Right.
And then instead of one or two of us in an area, one area that they have to bus in, but I can get there by van, there are 15 people bottling that area, which means they're coming in by bus, collecting all they can carry on the bus and going home. So, I mean, it's definitely a sign that the economy is going to H in a handbasket.
Right. So you used to be one of the few who would do that, say, in a certain area or whatever, but now many, many more people are doing it, and they're collecting fewer and fewer bottles because instead of, as you say, people putting their empties at the curb or whatever, they're actually returning them for the deposit.
That's right.
Very interesting. Can I ask, why do you do that? Why do you do that? I'm sorry.
I do it to support a couple of people that cannot get welfare because they don't have an address and nobody will put them into a place so they can get it.
I see. That's very good of you.
I have to make the money every month to pay their expenses because I'm on a pension.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder and harder. Instead of doing it 2 or 3 nights a week, I'm up to 4 nights a week.
Wow.
And
well, Len, God bless you for doing that, Len. My goodness gracious, and for sharing that information. That's very, very insightful. Thank you. Be right back on the economy on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
How is the economy doing, in your opinion? Wasn't that insightful from Len, who goes around Calgary collecting bottles to help out some people that he knows who are having a hard time making ends meet. And he says there never used to be as many people collecting bottles now as there used to. And there are fewer bottles to collect because people aren't putting as many bottles to the curb because they're taking them back to the whatever depot to collect the deposit. I find that really interesting. Not really in a good way. George, up next. George. Hi, George. Let's go to Kelly then. Hi, Kelly.
Hi there.
Yeah, hi, Kelly. How would you
Hello?
say the economy is doing, Kelly? Yeah.
Well, I own a restaurant in Calgary, and I don't find it as bad as what people are saying. Like we're still busy, and we do have people make reservations to come in.
Okay.
They're still buying the most expensive thing on the menu.
They are. Okay.
And yeah, I shop at Sobeys. I go to the mall with my grandchildren, and malls are still busy. But
That's
what
good.
I'm having a problem with is finding employees that want to work.
Isn't that something?
I have put,
And
I
explain
have
that a little bit
it
more.
I have it on Indeed. I've got it on Kijiji. I got people that, and I pay above minimum wage. And nope, I having a really hard time getting employees to come in that want to work. Cooks, front-end staff, really hard time.
And why do you think that is?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm amazed by it. I am amazed. When I first opened the business in June of this year, I took a lot of people, if they came to me and said they had a hard time finding a job or they had never been in the job force before, it was their first time getting out of high school, I hired them. And now I can't seem to find anybody that wants to work. I've reached out to a couple of my friends that are homeless and they don't want to work. So I don't know what's going on. Either the government's giving them too much money or something. Because I'm having a really hard time finding employees.
Okay, well, that's interesting. And but otherwise, your business is doing well, though. And
Not
you're busy.
a problem with mine, yeah. We're busy.
That's good. And they're still buying the most expensive thing on the menu. What's the most expensive thing on the menu, Kelly? I'm just curious.
Well, I have a seafood restaurant in Calgary, and it's my Captain's Catch, which is scallops and shrimp and fish. Yeah.
Sounds divine. Okay, good luck with it. Glad to hear business is doing well. With the Captain's Catch. How's the economy doing? After the news on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, lots of lines available there for you. The Hill Times, which is a kind of a niche publication in Ottawa, it's kind of for the hardcore Ottawa political bubble, had a story recently that was actually quite troubling about our mood right now when it comes to things like the economy. And that's what we're asking today. How do you feel about the economy? How do you think the economy was doing? But this story was based on public opinion research from Ecos. Now, I know some people hear that Ecos, maybe they don't trust that polling firm. That's fine. Frank Graves, the guy who owns the firm, is seen as very liberal friendly. That's fine too. To me, that's what made the story even more interesting because it was so unflattering to the Liberal government. The headline in the Hill Times was Liberals' lead shrinks as Canadian mood plummets to historic low. And I mean, if you're in the government, if you're in the Prime Minister's office, that is not a headline that you want to see. A week before Budget Day, the mood of Canadians at a historic low. And Frank Graves in this story says he's never seen Canadians feel so down. And Canadians don't feel down if the economy is, humming along and jobs are plentiful. Quote, Graves said the level of despair, the level of despair is the worst he has seen since he began polling in the mid-1990s. It goes on, quote, when asked by Ecos to compare their overall quality of life to the previous generation of 25 years ago, 58% said worse off. And even more, 71% said the quality of life for the next generation 25 years from now will be worse. I mean, when you think about that, you put 10 people in a room and you ask them, are you better off than the generation of 25 years ago? More than half of them say no. And then if you ask them, will the next generation be better off 25 years from now? 7 out of 10 say no. I mean, it's not good. It's a terrible statement on where people are in life right now. And the economy can dictate a lot how people feel about where they are in life. Quote, Graves explained that the Liberals' constituency is mainly composed of older, more affluent and middle-class university-educated adults, but the party is not doing well with the group that is the most despondent. Like, despondent. Under 35-year-old Canadians, the working class, and quote, there seems to be a bit of erosion in the union vote. And he said Canadians have bleak expectations. Bleak. And as I say, if the economy is in tip-top shape and people feel financially secure, and they can go out to restaurants and not worry too much about the bill, and they can go to the movies and not complain about how much it costs, the mood of the nation is probably going to be described as a little bit better than bleak, wouldn't you think? Or a level of despair not seen since the 1990s. Bleak despair. And yet pollsters are going out into the field, and this is what they're hearing about how people feel about things right now, including the state of the economy. And then there was a story I mentioned a couple of days ago about the big food banks in Toronto. And I'm sure this is just not a Toronto thing, and that if we interviewed the head of the Halifax Food Bank or the big food bank in Calgary, they would be reporting record usage. The troubling thing about the Toronto Food Bank story was it's not just people on the economic fringes who are going to food banks. That was something that was stressed in the report from the Daily Bread Food Bank and the major food bank in North York, Ontario. A lot of working people, even people who are working 2 jobs, they're going to food banks. 4 million visits to Toronto food banks last year. The headline in the Toronto Star was Toronto Food Bank saw more than 4 million visits in the last year, including those from people working multiple jobs. And in the story, it says, quote, they aren't problems with just one sector of the population. These are people who are employed, 2-parent families, single-parent families. It's affected every community from coast to coast to coast, said Kirsten Beardsley, CEO Food Banks Canada. And I've interviewed Kirsten Beardsley many times in the past. And my gosh, it just seems that the situation with food bank use, I mean, it's getting worse year after year after year. 340% increase since 2019. 65% of working age, 57% a post-secondary degree, showing poverty is becoming harder to escape. Half of households had at least one person who was employed either part-time or full-time. 35% of those employed worked multiple jobs and said they would work more hours if more hours were available. Is that a sign of a healthy economy? If people are working 2 jobs and they still have to rely on a food bank? It's just not supposed to work that way. Bleak. Despair. People working multiple jobs would work more hours if they were available, and yet still going to the food bank. It's an indictment, if anything. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So we have been asking about your opinions on the economy and how you think the economy is doing, what you're seeing at the Main Street level, the neighborhood level, what you're hearing when you have conversations with friends, family, co-workers about the state of the economy. Chris is up next in Calgary. Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Hi, Chris. What would you say, Chris?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, hear you just fine.
overall for me, my view is negative on the economy. I'm in the overhead door industry in Calgary, and we're obviously tied to construction and renovation, and we also have branches Toronto and Vancouver, and all across in our industry, and from what we're hearing in construction renovation, those big purchases are way down. And homes in Calgary is way down as well, and that is also a big purchase. So I think small purchase wise, you're seeing movement and people shopping at the Dollaramas and the grocery stores and going out to eat. But the big purchases for that kind of stuff is quite significantly down across the board, from what I hear in our industry and the ones we're tied to.
Okay. So the renovation business might not be booming the way it once was.
No, it's, for the last, I've been doing it 15 years, and, we've been pretty steady and on a growth scale that entire time. And it has taken a large drop across all three of our branches and industries. And it's interesting to see.
Right. And it's not just where you are. You say it's kind of a cross-country thing, operations across the country, suppliers, this sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yes, definitely. At least, yeah. So, and I would say, big purchases, those are significantly down, which is what a home is too. And it's down in Calgary and like you said, in Toronto. So it's, I would say negative because people are afraid to spend that money and rightfully so because the state of things.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. Yeah. Very insightful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love those kind of like on the ground kind of reports like that. I wonder how much of that has to do with the job market. I mean, more and more. I mean, you see layoffs in the news all the time. That can induce a lot of anxiety, feelings about financial insecurity for a lot of the people. Some of the big banks did a round of layoffs after they did their return to the office mandate. That we talked about around Labor Day, saying, hey, we want everybody in the office. Canada Post laid off managers. Nestle did a round of layoffs in Canada. I live not too far from a small town, population about 3,500, that has a Domtar paper mill. And it let go between 200 and 300 people, and the mill is closed until further notice. And I mean, you cut 300 mill jobs in a town of 3,500. I mean, that's hard on the whole town. And we know how difficult it has been in the forestry industry these days. And that is a tariff story. I mean, that is a crisis, really. Even in the oil and gas sector, ConocoPhillips just a few days ago, Imperial Oil from Calgary, head office jobs, Stellantis, in Brampton, GM in Ingersoll. It's like every day it seems there's news about layoffs and people losing their jobs. Thank you for all of your calls, though. Really appreciate you engaging in the conversation today. Brand new topic tomorrow and more of your calls. And always the latest breaking news that is coming up next here on News Radio